Welcome to Let's Go Indigo. I'm your host, Isaac Holtz, and on a good day, Indigo Ike. Today I want to talk about the question of turquoise and what turquoise might be. I'll put a picture here of the developmental scale, and if you look here, we've talked a lot about the various first tier colors from magenta up to green. Often I'll speak in a language or tie in ideas and concepts around teal. And then we rarely talk about turquoise, and the name of the show uses indigo, and it's more of an aspirational thing. And it's also, for me, a question of what would indigo look like. And of course, if I've been interested in indigo, I've also thought about, well, what does turquoise look like? And recently a good friend asked me, and I haven't done a show in a while, so I thought that's a perfect idea. Let me do something that one of my viewers is interested in. So if you have an idea for a show, put it in the comments. And while we're at it, I'll do the very orange thing, and I will recommend that you like the show, hit subscribe. I don't know, put the notifications on. Do people do that? Anyway, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening, and let's talk about turquoise. So, the real question, I think, there's lots of camps. There's a couple camps, I guess, in the integral community that I have seen on some of these topics. And the question is, in some ways, does teal exist? And of course, according to the model, if teal doesn't exist, then turquoise doesn't exist, and the other stages above it. And if you have done spent any time in integral theory or spiral dynamics or developmental theory, we could pretty safely say that the first tier, stage tiers exist. You know, I'll start with just orange. It's pretty clear that the modernity worldview exists, rationality, scientific worldview. It's pretty clear now the green worldview exists, and nobody would deny it. The postmodern, relativistic, sensitive. It really is trying to be inclusive. The next stage of a second tier teal really takes that project and actually does it by including developmental aspect, and that each of these stages has something important. So it's super inclusive, much more than Green's has been in practice, even though it has aspired to be inclusive. Teal, an integrative stage, at least is showing up in people's minds. And so there's books, there's podcasts, there's YouTube channels, and there's different media and sources, and people have real conversations around these topics. And there's a question of whether it's actually existing, in the sense that, like, you could go to certain places in the world and you say, well, that's a very green town, or that's a very orange city, or that's a very amber rural community. Whatever it might be, and of course you might find amber in the city, and you'd find green in the city, and you'd find green and all those other things out in the country. But it does take more than one person to have a we space and a cultural space. And so there are a number of people who identify as teal and integral, and they do talk to each other. We don't all know each other, but I know a good number now that I've been in this sort of space for a while, and I have one camp that I know and one camp that I know, and they don't know each other. So if there is a teal, it's developing, and it's growing. And if there's enough teal to actually have a turquoise, what I would say turquoise is some way of these groups all kind of getting along, so to speak. And your individual systematic worldview that comes online in teal, you may have different words to describe it than other people who are resonating at teal. But if you're truly in a turquoise space, you can synthesize all of the synthesized worldviews. And so my opinion is that at turquoise, there becomes very little difference in understanding of the system and the interconnected holes. I don't know what words you might use, but the fabric of reality. There's not a large disagreement about what's going on, and so it's still sort of a super mental stage as I kind of understand it. But I think that the worldview that each person has at turquoise, if you have two people at turquoise, is pretty simpatico. It's pretty aligned together, and I think there starts to be a sort of shared understanding of the dynamic. I think that can happen at teal. Again, that's why it's really hard to say whether there is a turquoise, because we really, we don't have a large experience of that's clearly a teal environment, and then what would differentiate it out from to a turquoise one. But I do generally also feel that teal is some more individualistic. A lot of teal people spend their teal time by themselves. And then I think anytime teal people get together, which happens, but it's actually rare. I don't spend most of my time with my teal friends. They're often living in other places. But when I do talk to them, it feels much more like myself. I feel much able to, even if we're not talking developmental theory, I feel very much more present naturally, and I feel more at home. And so I do think that when teal individuals, to whatever degree they're teal, do get together and either have a conference or visit each other or start projects, that is more of an example of what turquoise is. I think there is a natural alternating current in the developmental scale where red is individualistic, amber is community or social, orange is more individualistic, green is more communal, teal is more individualistic, turquoise is more communal. And so I think that is probably holds true if there is a turquoise, or what we might call a turquoise at this point. And it's that's largely what I would say. So if you want to grow turquoise, I would call up your teal friends and hang out and do something together. Well, with the sirens blaring outside of here in Queens, New York, I will say have a good day, goodbye, have a good night, whenever you're watching this, and please come back, and good luck on your developmental journey.